On this episode, we're diving into a case about a Canadian man found dead, far from home, in a hotel parking lot in Knoxville, Tennessee. His name was Blair Adams, and his final days on this earth were as mysterious as they were tragic. We'll look into what may have driven this man to leave his friends, family, and his country behind to go on a journey that would ultimately cost him his life. Prepare yourselves for a story that will challenge your perceptions and leave you wondering, what really happened to Blair Adams? Welcome back to Fireside Unsolved, episode 111, The Unsolved Death of Blair Adams. On July 5, 1996, Blair Adams, a 31-year-old resident of Surrey, British Columbia, began exhibiting behavior that can only be described as peculiar and alarming. Without any apparent reason, he suddenly withdrew nearly all the money from his bank account. But that was just the beginning of his strange actions on that seemingly ordinary July day. Not content with just emptying his bank account, Adams then turned his attention to his safe deposit box. He methodically removed everything of value: cash, jewelry, gold, and platinum. With his life savings literally on his person, Blair Adams then made his way to the border, attempting to enter the United States. However, he chose an unusual entry point, taking the ferry from Victoria, British Columbia, to Seattle, Washington. This odd route into the U.S. hit a snag. The large amount of cash and valuables he was carrying immediately raised red flags with immigration officials. After further investigation, and upon discovering that Blair had previous convictions for illegal substances and assault charges, they denied him entry. This rejection, however, did not deter Blair. For him, it was merely the beginning of a journey that would become increasingly bizarre. Just days later, in the early hours of July 9, 1996, Blair found himself once again in a precarious situation. This time, he was stopped by Canadian Border Patrol officers as he attempted to cross the Pacific Highway border on foot. Border Patrol immediately noticed his disheveled appearance, and it obviously raised red flags. His legs and hands were covered in scratches. Authorities noted these injuries, and it was suggested he had been involved in a physical altercation or had encountered some sort of danger during his attempt at crossing the border. To complicate matters further, Blair Adams matched the description of a suspect linked to a nearby car theft that had recently taken place. The stolen vehicle had been discovered abandoned not far from the crossing, raising suspicion about Blair's involvement in the crime. Despite these curious circumstances, especially given the implications of his injuries, Blair adamantly denied any connection to the vehicle theft. Blair maintained his innocence, insisting he had no part in the crime, and ultimately, with no evidence against him, they were left with no choice but to once again let him go free. And with that, Blair Adams again returned to Canada. After his first two, almost comically poor attempts to cross the border, Blair was still as determined as ever to enter the United States. Just a day later, on July 10, 1996, he finally succeeded in entering the United States. For his third attempt, Blair rented a car, a Nissan Altima, from Vancouver International Airport, and simply drove across the border in the early morning hours. Possibly even more perplexing, however, was Blair's actions once he arrived. He had driven straight to Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, and when he arrived, he promptly purchased a round-trip ticket to Frankfurt, Germany. This choice raised eyebrows among investigators, as Blair had previously worked in Frankfurt for his stepfather's construction company, except he never boarded that flight. Instead, in a sudden change of plans, Blair traded his ticket for a one-way flight to Washington, D.C. He landed in Washington at Dulles Airport around 6:45 a.m. When he arrived, he rented a Toyota Camry and began driving south. His destination was Knoxville, Tennessee, a place where he had no known connections. During this 500-mile drive, Blair's erratic behavior continued to deteriorate. While driving through Troy, Virginia, he backed his car into another vehicle, causing minor damage. The other driver later told detectives that Adams seemed nice but was in a hurry. At around 5:30 p.m. on the evening of July 10th, Blair Adams found himself stranded at a BP gas station on Strawberry Plains Pike in East Knox County, Tennessee. He approached the clerk, visibly frustrated, claiming he couldn't unlock his rental car. Enter Gerald Sapp, an interstate repair service driver, called on to assist Blair with his car troubles. Sapp quickly realized the root of Adams' problem. He was attempting to use the Nissan Altima key on his Toyota Camry rental. When Sapp suggested Blair check his pockets for the correct key, he oddly refused. It was as if he was deliberately avoiding the simple solution. Unable to resolve the issue, Sapp arranged for the car to be towed to a local auto repair shop and dropped Blair off at a nearby Fairfield Inn. But Adams's odd behavior was far from over. Security footage captured Blair lingering in the hotel lobby for approximately 40 minutes. He paced, fidgeted, and seemed lost in thought, almost in a trance. Finally, he approached the front desk and purchased a room, handing over a $100 bill. But when the clerk tried to give him his change, Blair abruptly turned and walked out. It would later be discovered that Blair would never even step foot into the room he'd just paid for. The following morning, as dawn broke on July 11, 1996, a group of construction workers arrived at the site of an under-construction Country Inn and Suites hotel in Knoxville, Tennessee. Little did they know that their ordinary workday was about to take a horrifying turn. At around 7:30 in the morning, they stumbled upon the body of a man, laying there in the hotel parking lot. It would turn out to be Blair Adams. The scene before them was as puzzling as it was gruesome. Adams's body was found in a state of undress, his clothing partially removed. Beside him, as if carefully placed, were his shoes and socks. But it was what surrounded the body that added an extra layer of mystery. Scattered around Blair's body were various currencies: American dollars, Canadian dollars, and German marks totaling an amount nearly $4,000. This wasn't a simple robbery gone wrong. The presence of such a large amount of cash, carelessly left around Blair Adams' body, immediately raised red flags. What could possibly have transpired in this parking lot that would lead to such a bizarre crime scene? As investigators arrived and began to process the scene, it quickly became clear that this case would be anything but straightforward. Every answer they uncovered seemed to create a dozen new questions. The discovery of Blair Adams in that Knoxville parking lot was just the beginning of one of the most perplexing mysteries in Tennessee's history. The autopsy report from the University of Tennessee Medical Center painted a picture of Blair Adams' final moments. His body bore numerous cuts and abrasions, suggesting a fierce struggle. Possibly the most shocking injury of all was a violent blow that had ruptured his stomach, leading to sepsis, the official cause of his death. In addition, Blair had suffered a severe wound to his forehead, likely inflicted by something heavy, like a crowbar or club. Even more disturbing, there were clear signs that he had been assaulted before his death. Despite the violent nature of the attack, robbery appeared unlikely considering there was nearly $4,000 in various currencies surrounding Blair's body on the ground. Nearby, investigators found a black duffel bag containing maps and travel receipts, and a fanny pack holding an assortment of valuables: gold bars, coins, and jewelry. The only piece of physical evidence collected from the scene was a single strand of long hair, tightly clutched in Blair's hand, leaving many to wonder who it belongs to. In interviews with Blair's mother, it was revealed that he had been behaving strangely in the weeks leading up to his departure from Canada. And while Blair did have a previous substance abuse problem, friends and family members noted that he had been sober for 2 years at the time of his death, but had recently stopped attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Upon further investigation, Blair had confided to friends that he felt someone was trying to kill him and had told his mother that someone had been spreading rumors about him. These unsettling claims only added to the mystery of Blair's final days. Despite the lack of solid leads, a composite sketch was released, depicting an unknown man that 2 women claimed to have seen conversing with Blair outside a Cracker Barrel restaurant near the Fairfield Inn where he was staying. This mysterious figure has never been identified. In a 2010 interview with local law enforcement, officials revealed that the Knoxville Police Department had never received a credible tip regarding the circumstances surrounding Blair Adams' death. However, the Knox County Cold Case Unit is still reviewing evidence to this day, in particular the strand of hair found at the crime scene. This piece of DNA could potentially lead to new developments if a match can be found, but as of now, there have been none. If you have information related to Blair Adams' unsolved case, please contact the Knox County Cold Case Unit at 865-215-2243, or by submitting an anonymous tip on www.knoxsheriff.org.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.